Told y'all that it was coming, that Doc Rivers was about to get fired. I said it right after they got eliminated. Me and Kev, we about to break it all down. But first, we got to get into the intro.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
So, Kev, I don't know about you, but it's starting to be you don't want to win Coach of the Year ever, because that just puts the timeline of your job to be the moment you have a disappointing season to get up out of there. But Doc Rivers joins Coach Bud, Nick Nurse, and Monty Williams as coaches that are all being fired this season. Bro, what do you think about it, man?
I think we did an episode like right when the playoffs started about which coaches were on the hot seat as playoff coaches, and we definitely had Doc Rivers up there. I think Stevo had Budenholzer up there. I don't think any of us saw Monty Williams or Nick Nurse getting fired, but hey, Doc Rivers was a long time coming. You know, like it's unfortunate that his players don't play for him anymore. I think he just lost the locker room, and we know that James Harden is a cancer in the locker room.
Yes, him and KD. They get coaches fired like it ain't nothing, bro.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's really wild. But I mean, like you said, the writing was on the wall for that. You've had a disappointing run there with the Sixers. Not all in Doc Rivers' control. Let me be clear. It's not all in Doc Rivers' control. I mean, even when you look at the Jimmy Butler trade, he was the coach throughout that and did pretty well on that. Moving James Harden to point guard to make room for Maxey seemed like it worked. It worked for the most part, right, during the regular season. But when it's all said and done, there's somebody who has to be the scapegoat when it comes to a team just not living up to their expectations. And because it seems like they want to try to keep James Harden, it made the most sense that Doc Rivers was on his way out.
And we know that what's the Moraney, who the dude that was in Houston, now he's in Philly. That's why James Harden went to Philly.
Yeah.
I forget the name of his name, but at the end of the day, it's a players' league now. And the first person to get scapegoated for the most part, unless your name is Dylan Brooks, is gonna be the coach.
Yeah, I mean, hey, and shout out to Elton Brand, who's the GM down there at Philly, which is wild that Elton Brand is the GM.
He's been there for a minute. Like, he's been the GM for Philly for a while.
He just quietly switched over to being an executive in the NBA, bro, and literally nobody said anything about it, bro. It's crazy. Like, literally, he was just playing for them in 2016. I really feel like it was like maybe 1, 2, maybe even 3 years before he went from that to being the GM. It's really crazy when you think about it. But he got his work cut out for him. They now go into a coaching search where you have free agent coaches of Bud, Sam Cassell, Mike D'Antoni, Nick Nurse, Frank Vogel, Monty Williams, all out there of potential coaches.
The list goes on.
Yeah, the list
Dwayne Casey, Nate McMillan.
Yeah, and then when you look at the positions, right, you have teams that have great talent on it. You got the Suns, you got the Bucks, you have Philly now as well. Like, it's going to be interesting to see like how the round robin of coaching seat changes happens this offseason or whatnot. But the thing that I want to get into, and I know you guys have a video on coaching dropping later on. I don't want to touch into the content there, but do you think that at some point the NBA needs to stop switching around these names that they end up firing after 2 or 3 years? We don't really have very many organizations anymore that build up a new head coach.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate. It's a win now league at the moment, and it's also what have you done for me lately? And unless your name is Greg Popovich, you just don't have any real true job security. And of course, Steve Kerr over there in Golden State seems to be pretty secure.
And apparently, Billy Donovan has job security as well. I don't know how he earned it, but apparently Billy Donovan has it there as well.
But look at Eric Spoelstra, though. Like, he's been able to build a culture in Miami that has him in what is his 8th conference finals, 6, 7, or 8 conference finals. It's like when you see consistency, you give a coach an opportunity to build and rebuild and retool. It actually works for an organization as opposed to what's happening now. Because I don't see the Bucks recovering the way that they think they will. And you just firing these people and not allowing these coaches to retool, I think is a bad move.
Yeah, I agree too. I think you have to allow a coach to build not just a system, a program, right? And I know it's a term that's more used for collegiate sports, but really, like, when you look at Eric Spoelstra, he worked himself up from being a video guy up until eventually taking over the head coach position, and he's built a program down there, not built a whole culture, and like, he's not leaving. Pop's done that for years. Steve Kerr's done that over the Golden State Warriors, right? Phil did it here for a while in Chicago. So, like, it's I feel like you said, it's a win now league, and everybody just keeps switching these same names. We need some new blood. And I always say, like, even with the Bulls, which I'm a fan of, the Chicago Bulls, I don't want to see them go after a big name whenever they do move on for Billy Donovan. I want to see them sign a young guy that they build up as the next great head coach. I'm tired of switching names around. And I think as long as we keep getting that, it's gonna every 2 or 3 years, it's gonna be probably the same people. In 3 to 4 years from now, we're going to be talking about Coach Bud, Nick Nurse, and Doc Rivers being on the market again. I guarantee you.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why I don't feel bad for the coaches, because it's like, it's the good old boys club. So they basically, just moving on to the next one. It's not like they're out of a job for real, for real. They're just off that team and moving on. Either they're going to be an assistant, they can go to the behind the scenes, they can become consultants. Like, once you get into any of these coaching situations, really NBA, NFL, you basically got a job until you don't want it anymore.
Unless you're Mark Jackson. Like, real talk. Mark Jackson, blackball from the league. Now, he's said some wild shit. I understand it, but I'm like, he's really the only coach that you can think of that had some success and just has not been able to get back in the league at all.
That's really it. Like, he pissed off the wrong people. That's just the reality of it. Like, it's certain things you can't say in today's society, and certain people you can't say things about. Mark Jackson was probably one of the first victims of cancel culture.
That's crazy when you think about it. That's very accurate. But what do you think's next? So we talked about, like, Doc Rivers. I don't, unless Doc wants to take a year off, I don't think he's going to be out of a job long. I wouldn't be surprised if within the next 3 weeks he has a new job. Like, it's just kind of is what it is. But what do you think is next for the Philadelphia 76ers? If you look at the coaches that are out there, the names that are available, which one do you think is going to fit them the best as far as their roster? And what do you think this means as far as James Harden? Do you think this means that the Sixers are more likely to retain James Harden now than what they were before? Had they held on to Doc, what do you think the future for the Sixers is?
I believe that that's why they fired Doc Rivers, because there were rumblings about his relationship with James Harden. Even the way James Harden spoke in the exit interview, the post games, like, our relationship is fine. Just basic answers. So I think what's next for them is, I would like to see them go after a Monty Williams or somebody that's going to. They really need Mike Malone, because Mike Malone is utilizing Joker the right way, and obviously he's not available. But they need a coach like Mike Malone that's going to build around and build their offense around getting Embiid the most touches as possible, because that's really where they lost, was Game 6 down the stretch. Joel Embiid didn't touch the ball, and that's what they need, that type of coach. I do think they can retain James Harden, but it depends on. I don't understand why they
even want to retain James Harden.
Right.
Let's talk about that. Do you think I get it? Like, you don't want to just let talent walk away, right? And I even understand re-signing him and then maybe looking to move him a year or so down the road if you need to. But to me, you have to start betting on your future. And Maxey is the future at that guard position. You want the ball in his hands as much as possible, in my opinion. I know not everybody's going to agree with that. And, James Harden showed an ability this season to be able to be a facilitator at times, especially when his shot wasn't falling. But I think you really want those reps to go through Maxey. But as you said, we are in a microwave society and league, and most people aren't going to want – most teams aren't going to want to give away a talent like that and potentially get even just a little bit worse. They're going to want to just try to roll it back and stay where they are right now as much as possible.
I would stay away from James Harden if I'm Philly, to be 100. I just don't. He has a long track record of disappearing in the playoffs.
Yeah,
and it's like, that's really what matters, right? The playoffs. Like, obviously the regular season is important, but if you're trying to win championships, James Harden is not your guy.
Yeah, I agree with that. And so Bill Simmons tweeted this out, which is funny. If you had to name one NBA superstar in history who consistently came up short in playoffs, quit on multiple teams, consistently showed a lack of accountability, and got the most coaches, teammates either fired or traded, who comes first to mind? It's James Harden.
Yeah, easily James Harden. And LeBron.
And you look at how toxic he was in his prime in Houston. He turned away every player that came through. Chandler Parsons, who they developed and drafted, got up out of there. Now he got hurt, but he wanted to get up out of there because James Harden was him and Dwight Howard were so toxic, bro. It's crazy.
Yep. And CP3, Melo. You can, the list goes on, and he couldn't make it work with KD and Westbrook and OKC. And I believe that James Harden is one of those players who's really, really, really good at basketball, but it's no longer just about basketball for him.
That's a fact.
It's a mentality, and his approach to the game, I don't like it, to be honest. Like, I don't think these players should be rewarded for mediocrity. Like, it just sucks.
Yeah, I mean, and we'll see if that continues with the way that the CBA has changed, man. It's going to make that money that people fight over, the deals that teams were just giving out frequently before, they're going to have to think about it a lot more, because if you're in that luxury tax over that second apron for more than 2 years, it's so penalizing to teams now that I think that I read an article today that they expect more star names to be moved between this offseason and the trade deadline than ever before, just by teams trying to avoid that penalization of being in the luxury tax for so long. And that's crazy.
Yeah, man. And I'm excited to see it. Like, honestly, I ain't counting nobody's pockets, but it's players that's making $18-19 million a year that's sitting on the end of the bench. Some of them ain't even on teams. And we had a quote from DeMar DeRozan saying it's a lot of sorry players in this league right now. So, like, the players see it, and of course the coaches see it. I'm excited to see what's going to happen, because not only are players being moved, but the coaches are being moved. It's a carousel right now.
That's a fact. That's a fact. So, I mean, hey, we'll see what ends up, where Doc ends up landing up, what this means for the Philadelphia 76ers in the long run. But I wish I could say I was surprised, but this is one that didn't surprise me at all, bro. Matter of fact, I sent you guys a fake thing where it was like Doc fired. I was like, expect to see that soon. Do you realize that Woj used that exact same picture in his actual post? That was crazy, bro.
It's true. I mean, hey, I'm excited though. Like, it sucks for Doc Rivers, but this is more on him too. Cause, like, dude, you got the most Game 7 losses ever. You got the most 3-1 leads blown ever. But I would like to see these players take some type of accountability when it comes to these types of things. You would never hear Kobe or Mike or even Iverson say the things that Embiid said after losing Game 7 the other day.
Yeah, for sure. When you look at the teams that have had the most wins since 2020-21 season, it's been Phoenix, Milwaukee, and Philadelphia. They all fired their head coaches.
And the Bulls still got theirs.
And the Bulls still got Billy Donovan. There you go. Billy Donovan is still locked in with the Chicago Bulls on the secret extension. It's crazy, bro. Never a dull day around the NBA. That's why you guys need to stay tuned in with NBA Central, because we'll keep dropping that fire content. Kev, before we go, anything left, man?
I just want to say shout out to certification_Poppy, Jay Capone, Adnan. We see y'all, CJ the Truth, MC Season. We appreciate you guys for rocking with us. And yeah, man, I do believe that if he would have made it to Game 7 of the conference finals, they would have kept him. But hey, all of these guys, for some reason or another, don't have jobs.
I agree with that. If they would have made it to ECF and went to Game 7, I don't think you can't fire a coach. Well, you can, but I don't think that they would have fired a coach in that case. I just don't. Oh, Baki, we got Baki in the building.
What up, Baki?
Baki says, if Mike D'Antoni gets this job, I agree with Stephen A. Smith. Harden got Doc fired. Bro, if he ends up having the same coach and Daryl Morey, still, like, yeah, absolutely. I agree with that 100%.
That's crazy, bro.
And you know what, though? I will say this. I don't think Mike D'Antoni would be a bad coaching hire for them. When you look at how D'Antoni utilized Amari Stoudemire in his prime,
Embiid would have to be ready to run, and that dude gets gassed.
Well, D'Antoni did show in Houston that it's not all run and gun. They didn't do a lot of run and gun in Houston, especially this last year there. So I don't think they'll be running the same system as what he did with Phoenix in their prime. I think they are apt to slow it down more. But yeah, they don't have the roster to run and gun like the Suns did of that era. Because even Harden, you think Harden got the conditioning to run up and down?
No,
nah, bro. You gonna get max level 15 possessions from Embiid and Harden max if you try to run that type of system. That's it. That's what they got for you.
But I can see Mike D'Antoni going there, and I can see him getting the best out of Maxey as well.
That's true too. He does work wonders with the young guard. So, I mean, we'll see there. Do you expect heavy? So let's say they do hold on to James Harden. Do you see other changes happening on the roster? Keep in mind, Tobias Harris down there has a 1-year contract left. We know expiring contracts can be moved for every team except the Bulls. The Bulls seem to hold on to their expiring contracts, but they have a lot of deals down there that could be flexible and move. Nang is another one that has an expiring contract. Do you think that if they lock in Maxey, Harden, Embiid as that core, do they look to move some of those other players to kind of change up that team a little bit?
Absolutely. I think even the fact that they hedged their bets on Tobias Harris to begin with was a mistake. They definitely should have kept Jimmy Butler in Philly. So I see Tobias Harris getting up out of there because he's making max player money, but he's not giving you that type of effort. And if you're gonna have a role player, you want a role player that's gonna give you way more effort than what Tobias is giving you.
That's a fact. That's a fact. So I guess we'll see, man. I guess we'll see the future. But Kev, go ahead and tell them where they can follow you at, man. Let's get up out of here.
Y'all already know this whole Central family. The main one you can holler at me on is the Chicago White Sox and Chicago Cubs Central. Click that like button and notification bell on YouTube. We appreciate you guys.
Absolutely. You can follow me at CEO Haize, at CEO Haize. You can also catch me on Bleacher Report today, 5 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, covering the hype around the Chicago Bulls draft in the draft lottery, and if they can, hold on to that pick. But otherwise, make sure you guys are also following NBA Central at NBA Central Pod on every social media platform. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBA Central Show at gmail.com. And lastly, you want to leave a text message and our voicemail, 773-270-2799. We're the number one spot for everything NBA related. We out this mug.
Peace.